There are many different ways to play Skyrim. You can be a stealth archer lurking in the shadows, or you can put every skill point into restoration. You can wield legendary weapons or master powerful spells. But what if you ignored all of that? If you threw logic, strategy, and dignity out the window and asked, can you beat Skyrim with only a fork? The run started how all good runs start, the death of a rebel scum and picking your race. I chose an orc because of Berserker Rage, an ability that allows me to deal double damage and take half as much damage. But I could only use it once per day. And after killing the people who disagree with us, a wild dragon appeared and Ralof and I made our escape. My plan, or lack thereof, is to play the game as pacifist as I could until I could get my hands on a fork. And if that means letting Ralof get beaten up, then so be it. I escaped Helgen and I took the Warrior Stone because I need any and all help for this run. I ran straight to the Jarl because I wanted to push through the main story as fast as I could. The wizard wanted some cool looking rock, and I ran up the mountain at breakneck speeds. None of the enemies need to be killed. I did use a trap to kill this bandit, but Skyrim doesn't count it as my kill, so I won't either. I used an axe to cut down Arvel, and I made sure not to hit anyone but the spiderwebs. And Arvel made the logical error when he challenged a Skeever and a Draugr to a fight. The problem with trying to kill a Draugr Overlord without a weapon is that you don't have a weapon to kill the Draugr Overlord with, so I led it to a previous trap and let it kill itself. I gave the rock to the wizard and the Jarl told me some more bad news. He wanted me to kill a dragon. Again, I'm sure you can see the problem with not having a weapon to kill the dragon with. I went over to the tower and I faced the dragon head on. Without a weapon, I had to rely on the guards to kill it, and let me tell you, that took a while.
Welcome, moon and star, come to me through fire and war. Oh, oh, come Nerevar, come and look upon the heart, upon the heart. Oh, lay down your weapon, it is not too late for my mercy. Oh, oh, come and look upon the heart, upon the heart. Oh, 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 I'm a god. How can you kill a god? What a grand and intoxicating innocence. I'm a god. How can you kill a god? Shame on you, sweet Nerevar.
The Greybeards summoned me, so I bought a horse and I made the long hike up the mountain. We don't get access to High Hrothgar until this part, and the fork you need is up there. I also needed to wait for this part in the story because you need to unlock a shout in order to take the fork. The challenge does not come from playing the entirety of Skyrim with a weapon that does less damage than getting a paper cut, but climbing the mountain to get the weapon in the first place. The fork is somewhat glitched in a rock, and you need to use the shout to get it unstuck. Eventually I got it, and yes, it deals 1 damage. I went directly to enchanting it to make it better. I enchanted it to do 8 points of frost damage. In an alternate timeline, I made the ultimate fire fork. I say alternate timeline because OBS decided that it had enough, and it stopped recording. But I didn't notice this until 2 hours in. Now that I finally have my weapon, and I've enchanted it, we can see how good it is. I think I'd rather wait for the Draugr to die of old age than to kill it with a fork. My biggest obstacle yet was some spiders, where I died multiple times. I made my way through the dungeon and I grabbed the note of the progression through the main story. What? What does that even mean? What does that mean? On my way to the inn, I was attacked by some cultists and died. My next objective was to kill a dragon. This time I had a weapon to fight back. When the dragon emerged from the ground, I started to attack it before it could even grow skin. However, my attacks were in vain when the dragon threw me around like a dog playing with a toy. But in the end, I prevailed and I ended the mighty dragon. Next, I attended the party. Usually this section is nothing too special, however, after dying and needing to do the first part again, I died again and didn't spawn where you usually would. I think I respawned on the second floor, and the guards that are usually fighting you had nothing to say.
Yes?
Nevertheless, I retrieved the book and I stopped this man from escaping.
And we are your accomplice. Surrender immediately or you both die.
Then I left and returned to Delphine. Delphine sent me to find everybody's favorite slow-walking basement dweller named Esbern. The lowlifes in the underground took a lot of swings to take down, and it didn't help that my fork ran out of charge at the start of the dungeon. Spamming the restoration spell was the only way to survive this part, and I accidentally started a civil war between the Thieves Guild and the lowlifes. Then I convinced Esbern to come out of his room and help us with the dragons. Escorting Esbern out was much easier than finding him because he could attack the enemies without the restriction of only using a fork. I went back to the Greybeards and they made me climb the mountain again. I showed the fork its home and I found Parthenax, and he told me to find the Elder Scroll. At this point in the game, I realized that Skyrim is just one big fetch quest. Nah, the Elder Scroll is probably the hardest dungeon in the game, with all the robot spiders and traps. And I didn't realize that the dwarven spiders are resistant to frost damage, and the frost effect was my saving grace this run. So this part was 10 times harder than it usually is. But after 20 minutes, I finally reached the Elder Scroll. I went back to Parthenax and I read the Elder Scroll. I guess this entire run is a glitch fest because something happened when I was reading the scroll that I didn't even know was possible.
And hang back. We've staked everything on this plan of yours.
I fixed it by just loading a save, but I really don't know what happened there. When I started this run, I thought this fight with Alduin was going to be the hardest part. However, constantly using Dragon Ren made this trivial. And I got through it without dying even once. Also, throughout this playthrough, I've been upgrading my one-handed skill, because the fork is actually counted as a one-handed weapon, which actually makes sense. It's just funny that Bethesda thought anyone would actually use this weapon. Next, I had to convince the Greybeards to hold a meeting, and I had to convince the two kingdoms to stop fighting so I could save the world. Then, we do the usual deal of trapping the dragon and making it take me to the dragon place. Then I can finally reach the end of the game and make my way to Sovngarde. Thankfully, by the end of the game, I've increased my one-handed skill so much, and I have 2 armor pieces that increase one-handed damage, that the Draugrs that were once trouble are a lot easier. I made it to Sovngarde and I was ready to finally be done with this awful challenge. I recruited some dead people, and I fought the final boss of Skyrim. Thankfully, this didn't take as long as I worried. I killed Alduin, and I finally beat Skyrim with only a fork.